Hello, friends. Welcome to Culture Doom. This is episode 413.
Service Pack 2.
Service Pack 2. It's part of the Redux edition of Culture Doom. Episode 413. I may have drank a little too much on the last episode, and we went off on a major tangent.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm the other co-host here. I'm Service Pack 2.0. I brought that up with Erica, and I was like, maybe because I've known you for such a long time, nothing really phases me anymore.
No.
I honestly didn't think you were, that lush.
There was
that episode.
It was just not a great performance on my part, and it just part of what it was I didn't direct the show very well. Like, we just talked forever about two topics basically. And then the third topic that we kind of started, it was sort of like, well, we've been talking, it's almost 11, let's abruptly go to the end topic now. And It's like, this is going to be a rough one to
edit. Yeah.
I actually, if it would have not gotten dinged by the copyright police, it would have gone up. It was already uploaded. And
but when you have to go back through it and you're starting to kind of second guess yourself,
it got dinged.
What is it, twice?
It got blocked twice. If it would have just been a normal copyright, where they're like, oh, you're in trouble, but the user, because what happens was they'll say the owner allows their content to be used on YouTube. This doesn't affect your channel at all. That's fine. We didn't get a strike, but we got blocked twice. Where the copyright holder, one of them was Golgo13 of all anime. Because the reason I used it, here's a behind the scene thing. You were saying you were wondering if Ghost in the Shell was the first CG used in anime. Golgo13 in 1983 actually is. And I had a clip.
Oh, that would have been really bad
it's
CG.
Really bad. And that's why it was funny. So it's just like, here's a shot of a really bad CG helicopter flying.
Because wasn't like the first, I wonder, they always say about like CG, like I think the first Disney CG that was released was Great Mouse Detective.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh,
but actually before that, it was the Black Cauldron. But the Black Cauldron didn't get released until like after that, or there were some issues with it and stuff like that. But I think the first live action actually young Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, that's what they always point to and stuff. And there probably was some other ones, but as far as we know in the Western audience, oh my lord,
we probably won't get dinged for a still. So I can show you this. This is what
it's like a plastic army man helicopter,
right? It's kind of quaint to see. It starts shooting at the building, and he's running around inside. And this is how I remember old games looking, what they actually look like. There's a meme for everything.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I don't understand like how they just greenlit that after seeing it. Like you would have had a producer going like "Ita luka like shitu."
It was cutting edge, and they liked to say now featuring computer animation. I mean, it's funny going back and looking at Toy Story.
Toy Story 1.
Toy Story 1, it is dated, In your memory, it's not as dated as you think.
Even Shrek, the original Shrek, even though people were saying like, wow, this version of like CG. I mean, honestly, 20 years from now, Avengers Endgame's going to look like ass. Because I know we're kind of like starting on one thing. Since you're my movie guy, I know a lot of films that have CGI where, you can go back and you can upgrade the quality of the film itself. CGI, and I might have asked you this before, the CGI itself, you'd actually have to go in and completely redo that, right? There's no way of kind of upscaling it on par with the film, right?
No, you can't do that. That just scales with you'd have to redo it. It's sort of what happened where the next gen Blu-rays, next generation Star Trek Next Generation Blu-rays, that anything practical that they could like do a good scan of the film negative or even like a inner positive, they did. But so much of the special effects in that show was actually done to videotape because it was just going to be broadcast in standard definition on television. So rather than paying to shoot it on film, they finished it on probably Betamax. It was the big
the go-to standard,
something like that, or maybe quarter inch or some kind of tape broadcast tape format. Anyway, so they went back and looked at that, and there was just no way of making it look better. So those got replaced by computer animation on the Blu-rays, because there was like, we can't fix the practical. So we're going to have to do something else. And they're not, in 2010 or whenever that came out, they're not going to, shoot the practical anymore. But speaking of shooting practical, Alex, do you know do you know what today is? What?
Today is May the 4th be with you. Yep. Surface Pack 2.0.
Wink.
Which is basically the biggest day of the year for anything Star Wars related. And it's only because so many Star Wars games are on sale on Steam, on GOG, on Epic Game Store, on Microsoft Store. Like, that's basically the only reason people want. It's like, I haven't gotten a copy of Empire at War. Might as well go ahead and get it. I haven't gotten a copy of Jedi Knight. Might as well go ahead and get it.
Was Star Wars, was May the 4th a thing before Disney?
I think it to a much smaller. Well, I think it was to an extent. I
don't remember it in high school. I'll put it that way.
I don't remember in high school. I don't think it was anything really until after the prequels. I think it was maybe something that really gained more traction maybe in the early 2010s. But I don't. Maybe late 2000s, early 2010s. But I think at that point it was kind of like something where it was before Disney purchased it, and it was in this self-existing. It was self-aware.
According to Wikipedia.
2004?
2011.
2011. Interesting. I think, or wasn't it originally kind of like in conjunction with Star Wars Celebration?
Oh, okay.
Because I felt like there was some sort of like location involved with it.
Oh, this is horrifying. The first recorded reference of the phrase being used on May 4th, 1979.
That symbol.
The day after Margaret Thatcher was elected Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Her political party, the Conservatives, placed a congratulatory advertisement in the London Evening News saying, "May the 4th be with you, Maggie, congratulations." Why did this give me a Canadian flag? What was I... I don't know where that flag came from.
Truly a hive of scum and villainy.
Prime Minister elected? How strange. Why did it show me... What did I mouse over that showed me the freaking... That's so weird.
UK Parliament.
Huh, okay.
Yeah,
anyway.
Weird.
Oh, there it is. Toronto, Canada. The first organized celebration of Star Wars Day took place in Toronto, Canada. There's just a lot of insults, American insults happening here. The Prime Minister of the UK was the first recorded usage of that term, and then the first organized celebration was in Toronto. The U.S. really dropping the ball here.
Well, I mean, what better way to describe the current state of Star Wars fans than being Canadian?
For example, your current wallpaper. The big elephant in the room, because we kind of stopped talking about Star Wars around The Last Jedi. There was the only reason we're talking about it now is because we kind of have blatantly not talked about Star Wars. We reviewed The Force Awakens. We may have briefly talked about Rogue One. And then the last...
did we talk about Solo?
No, neither of us saw that until 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah, okay. Which I honestly kind of go like, I really enjoyed Solo because everything was so shitty at that point. It's like, it was a caper movie, which, I mean, and it's, yeah.
Well, that's what,
Woody Harrelson.
That's what's happening with all of the shows on Disney Plus, is that the quality of the product is so low, the standards have dropped so far that a lot of the things that people are watching on Disney Plus are just like, oh my god, just something that's better than the sequel trilogy, basically.
Right, and unfortunately, so much of this stuff is just on par with the sequel trilogy.
I mean, I haven't seen anything. Well, technically I saw Rise of Skywalker, but The Last Jedi was when I tapped out and said, all right, I'm done. I don't need this in my life anymore. My series is head canonically is my 6 films that I had.
Admiral Thrawn shows up.
Well, that's the other. Okay, before we jump ahead, because to me, I think it's perfectly legitimate to say if George Lucas wasn't directly involved in some capacity, directly involved with story decisions, then it doesn't count. It really doesn't.
Right.
Because it's like just because somebody bought the IP doesn't mean suddenly it's canon, in my opinion.
Right, but unfortunately there's so many people that believe that to be the case. And to top it off, what makes it even worse is that of all companies, it happens to be Disney. And Disney gets an automatic plus 20 to any of their roles in terms of, being given the benefit of the doubt by the fan base because, it's Disney, and who better than Disney to do this and such.
It's like Disney used charm. It was super effective. And
exactly.
But I mean, also I think part of it is that a lot of the people who are really still excited about Star Wars, well, this is probably a controversial statement, but
we need it. Well, we need some hate mail in that mailbox.
I think that I would question how true their allegiance actually ever was to Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Where they stand, like the people who are buying 100 Furbies. What were they? What were the Peggles? Porgs.
Yeah.
Buying a bunch of porgs to take a picture of on Instagram, I don't think really increases your qualifications.
Or getting a massive Grogu tattoo on their like shin, or something like that, on their like cap. Yeah, I feel like it's something like they're more these people that kind of have somehow gotten past the gate and the gatekeeper of a certain fandom and have just kind of brought themselves into this, and now are trying to adapt themselves as best as possible to something because they didn't really have anything to belong to, and they're like, consume product, get excited for new product, don't ask questions, and like that stereotypical statement in a sense.
Are we just gonna like quote Red Letter Media?
I mean, I'm not. Well, what's funny about his quoting is that Mike Staclaza himself has basically kind of gone out and said that he's disavowing himself from being the leading cause of all the hate that the prequel trilogy got. And I'm like, you kind of fanned the flames, threw a giant bag of Kingsford charcoal on it, and then ran around with kerosene over it. You kind of did, Mike. I mean, there's no way to get around it. I also still take a lot of umbrage with your statement about how horror doesn't work in a science fiction setting, which is kind of stupid bullshit, but whatever.
I don't know.
That's a Star Trek thing.
This is like a very personal thing for you. I haven't watched a Red Letter Media video in probably a year and a half. I have no idea what they're doing. The only thing I did watch that I appreciated was them. I did watch their Nuki auction thing that they did for charity. Great. That was awesome. Yeah. Kudos to them. Other than that, they kind of, in terms of film criticism, their views have kind of gone off.
They're just going through the motions. In my opinion. They're on autopilot,
There's a whole lot of like them just not even being able to justify their feelings. So I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. But
I mean, as long as the Patreon money rolls in every month because people have forgotten that they're spending $10 that's automatically taken out. Yeah, I mean that's but I think like in terms of the fandom, like the fandom itself compared to where it was at the end of the prequel trilogy, I think it's become so split into many different hairs that the most vocal and obvious ones that are out there are the ones that basically just eat up everything that Disney puts out with Star Wars with a spoon. And there have been people that have said, okay, the best one so far on Disney Plus has been Andor and stuff. And it's like, I could care less because Rogue One basically to me made the rebellion look as big as a bunch of assholes as the Empire.
It was dark and edgy, Alex. That means it's good.
You
were talking about Andor.
I'm like, I don't care about some character's background story because that's the same argument people made about the prequel trilogy. It's like, we didn't need this. We don't care. We all know what's going to end up happening with Anakin Skywalker. And it's like, okay, great. We all know what's going to happen to Cassian Andor. who was a terrible character, and nobody should really give a care about him to begin with. And now they kind of have done a similar thing to The Mandalorian, which was sort of a better series going along, and now it's just become something bad. There was, up until a certain point, the episode with like Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd that I was watching, I'm like, all right, I'm done with this thing. But there was a side story that they were creating dealing with former Imperials that are kind of going through this rehabilitation program and stuff, and about how this one doctor that was from the first season was trying to kind of redo his life, and he got sucked back into this kind of conspiracy, or this group of Imperials are trying to do something and stuff, and then he ends up being betrayed by them, and he goes through this like whole like what's his face, Malcolm McDowell type of mental reprogramming thing like they do in Clockwork Orange. And I was like, Stop it, please, I beg you! You know, they say that don't think bad things, and they say that any type of criticism, no matter how not even bad or harsh or critical the criticism is about anything, any form of criticism about something is some form of negativity. And it's like, it's not, because there are things that you, like you and me, like there's things that we grew up with and we love, namely Star Trek and Star Wars, that if we criticize it, it's not because we're upset about things, it's because we love it so much and it has such a profound impact on our life from the beginning to the present, that you should be allowed to point out the aspects of it that are not up to par with what it used to be, and should be able to call it out. Not that, like, we don't just sit, like, our show is not just sitting here and crapping on it. I mean, there's shows like that do that all the time. We don't want to do that whatsoever. It's more like, we know that there's entities in there that need to be fixed. We know that there's good people out there that in these companies are trying to do their best, but unfortunately it's not working out, and the higher ups, the powers that be, have to be informed about this and have to be shook by their shoulders and be like, listen, if you want this to work out, you have to fix your things.
See, the problem,
and doing so is not being, toxic, or whatever they want to put to it.
Except the bigger problem with that, two things. One, the reason we never talked about Star Wars after The Last Jedi came out is because I didn't want to just say bad things. Because that movie was like one of the most offensive things I've ever seen in a mainstream cinema. Like, it was shockingly offensive as a fan. And but the more disturbing part of it was that it wasn't a true backlash. Because the fact that people are still paying to see The Mandalorian and paying to see whatever the last Rise of Skywalker, like, that movie should have been a gigantic flop, and it wasn't. Two idiots on the internet can say whatever they want about Star Wars movies. Until Disney feels pain financially, none of this matters. I'm fine just being a guy complaining on the internet, because that's all that's all that I'm meant to be. But this manufactured group of fans who I think care more about Disney as a company than they care about any of the IPs that they possess. Yeah, those are the people that need to be dealt with. You know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of like, it's not the people with the non-critical eyes who post those memes unironically about, like, only say things that are positive and talk about what you love. Like, those are the bigger problem than Bob Iger, who's just like, I don't know, they paid to see it, so what do you want from me? Yeah. Like you're unhappy, sorry, but
these people who grew up in reading nothing but young adult novels and still see the entire world and all entertainment and media as a young adult novel.
I am interested because there are people I know people who, like, for example, were bigger fans of Indiana Jones, who are now terrified of what's coming, who were very much like, oh, Brendan, it's just Star Wars, let it go. It does, and now it's something they care about. Yeah. And suddenly they're much more like, Disney's coming after something I like. and this is the person I'm thinking of is a woman, and she is very terrified of this character that's suddenly arrived in the trailers for Indiana Jones because
is it your mom?
No, it's not my mom. It's the infamous Liz.
Oh,
She's. I showed
infamous
her the trailer,
Liz.
and she was like,
there's poor Erica, and then there's infamous Liz.
Infamous Liz. Well, Liz is a disembodied. People have heard Erica's voice before.
She had
the audience thinks that I just have this imaginary female friend who I can cite as a female that I agree with whenever I want. Alex has met Liz before, just to be clear.
Yeah, I have. She's a real corporeal creature.
But anyway, so because she wasn't a Star Wars person, but she's an Indiana Jones person, and now so Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, she was just sort of like whatever. I just ignore it because it doesn't. It just wasn't. Right. It was just a weird aside that doesn't affect anything. Yeah.
But now that there's another one coming out,
now that it's the end, all bets are off on what they're. And now it's like, it's not by Spielberg. Yeah. Just like it's not by
George Lucas.
He's not involved either. So anyway, it's just funny to see. I'm also thinking about Harry Potter. I'm thinking of they're remaking Harry Potter as an HBO series now. I'm like, I bet you there's going to be a lot of angry fans from that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I understand you guys own certain IPs, and it does get to a point where a certain property just kind of has run its course, and you kind of have to come up with new things, but you are so fearful of taking a risk with something new that you always constantly fall back on stuff. And when you're falling back on a franchise, it's pretty much it's just a shell, a husk of what it used to be, and you're trying to create these new things with it. It just doesn't capture that same spirit of what it used to be.
Is it even possible for a property to be as popular as Harry? I feel like Harry Potter is the end of the era of franchises that are, well, I guess Avengers. I guess Marvel is I don't know.
There's some that they still try to pump. Like they did that whole Game of Thrones prequel thing where people were saying, "Oh, it's really good. You should really check it out." And it's like, yeah, but there's so many people that are so checked out of it after the fact. They're trying to do, I think, something also now with was that Hunger Games?
Again?
Was another
Hunger Games?
Supposedly, yeah. I don't know. Maybe not.
Is that Nicholas or Zachary? Nicholas. That's because my boy Zachary is always perfect angel. That's why he's the one coming with you to see Oppenheimer. We talked about this last week.
Well, I also read to him Goodnight Moon Tonight and Mickey's Colors.
Nicholas or
Mickey's Color Book?
Zachary.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. And Little Blue Truck. Little Blue Truck is great.
Did you read anything to Nicholas?
I read to him If You Give a Mouse a Brownie, and then Mickey's 5-minute bedtime stories.
A brownie?
Yeah, if you give him, there's a whole bunch of them. If you give a dog a donut, if you give a moose a muffin, if you give a cat a cupcake.
I only know if you give a mouse a cookie.
That's I think the original and the most popular of them all. But then there's if you give a pig a party,
this is Disney's fault too. They replaced a cookie with a brownie to undermine. Oh, I thought you disappeared. To undermine.
No, Erica got
Naughty.
Poor Erica.
Naughty. So anyway, yeah, I just think it's sad to have seen. I have no interest in Star Wars anymore as a property. The only interest I would have in Star Wars is if I had my own kids or somebody, or even a girlfriend that I had never seen it before, and I'd be like, don't go in thinking this is the best thing ever. This is to an adult, not to a child. So the child, I'd be like, this is the best thing ever. Here we go.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Just go and see what it's. I've introduced the boys to Star Wars is that the thing that they find the coolest is the lightsabers, because they're swords and you can whack people in their different colors. But when it be like, hey, do you guys want to watch the movie that it's based upon? There's aliens and spaceships and stuff, and they're like, nah.
Well, and also so Nicholas is 4. 5.
Five.
He's 5.
Yeah.
He's got a few, maybe 7, 8 is when.
Yeah. But he likes to watch. He watches like Kamen Rider and Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles.
Star Wars, you need to follow the story. All of those shows, you don't need to follow the story to get what's
when
going on.
we were 5.
Yeah. 5?
When we were watching Star Wars and we were like 5 years old.
I guess I was. Are you in trouble? Alex,
I hope not.
Alex looks like he's in trouble.
Hey there, cats and kittens. This is Culture Doom After Hours. I'm going to have to be very, very quiet.
Oh, no. You got to look?
Oh, yes. Oh, no. Her toilet's flushing, so I think things are good.
I'm sure she'll be happy to hear that mentioned on the program.
Yeah, but after this whole recent fiasco with Disney, even in Star Wars, like building the Star Wars land that nobody can really identify it because they just made something out of the blue, and then they had the hotel, which is still just becoming a financial quagmire. I guess Star Trek has won because they made one season of Picard that's what people wanted, but it's so far, it's a 3rd season, and it's like
the last season too.
Yeah, it's like, why couldn't you guys have just done this from the get-go, or just left the poker game where it was? It just you kind of like count. You don't know when to leave something when it should be left.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on.
Pager.
Speaking, why do you have a pager? Oh, it's a walkie-talkie, isn't it? I can't see. Is that a pager? It's just white. Oh, I see. Do you want to talk about this really quick?
Oh, just really quickly.
Alex is very proud of himself, and I'm proud of him too. So I'm
a man now.
Here's a little part of. We'll do Alex's vlog corner. I'm gonna go to just your camera, actually.
Oh no, you don't have to go to my. Oh, hi.
Oh no.
I'm having a good time. Not.
All right, that was enough of that.
Okay. Just Rich Evans was just very big. No, I've gone ahead and joined up with my local fire department here in town. So,
well, volunteer. You didn't become
volunteer. Yeah, no.
That sounds like you.
I still have my.
It sounds like you're a firefighter now.
Well, they call it the fire department, but it's a volunteer fire department because of the amount
because there's
the
80 people in your town.
1,500. Anyways. Yeah, it's just something I kind of started thinking about and inquiring about and talking to a few people that had done that before and kind of decided to go ahead and jump in and stuff. They suited me up the very first night, which I did not expect. They gave me like the helmet and the jacket and then like the mask for the air pack. They gave me the pager and stuff, the boots, pants. I got to ride in the back of the truck. It was so cool.
So
dude.
Wait, if there's a fire,
it's the most manliest thing I've done.
If there's a fire now, you're gonna get paged and have to go drive to the fire department, or did they pick you up, or how does that work? No, I'm just trying to. I don't.
It's basically so like the pager. It's like if you turn it on and a call comes through, you should go answer it. I mean, you don't necessarily have the chance to do it. I was talking like my neighbor who's like full time with Urbana, but then he also still does stuff here, and he's like, sometimes it's like you just, there is a minimum expectation of at least answering 10 calls throughout the calendar year.
Through the year? Yeah. I thought you were gonna say like a month.
No, not the month, because since you're a volunteer, a lot of people are just regular 9 to 5 jobs and stuff. But along with that is that majority of calls are probably going to be medical calls of some sort, safety calls and things like that, well-beings, somebody slipped in the bathtub, somebody fell on the stairs of their house, a lot of elderly things, followed by like car issues, somebody gets hit on the country road, somebody goes into a ditch, you might need to help them out and stuff. And then once in a while they have fires. I think they said like last year there were like 2 huge fires that they ended up going to.
Okay.
Multiple units.
So there's no formal fire department in your town?
There is.
Oh, okay.
But it's on a volunteer basis.
Okay.
So it's not.
So you don't
it
have
doesn't have a permanent staff.
But there's no trained firemen, like real, like As in what I would consider
like Fire Academy.
Yeah, what I would consider a fireman doesn't exist in your town.
I think some of the guys may have had some training. I know the chief of our department, he was a firefighter for like, I think 25 years.
Okay, so he knows.
And then he retired from it. Yeah, and he's been.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was hoping there's somebody who actually had been formally trained and wasn't just. It's like it may be in 1865 the fire train. It's just a bunch of guys who are just there to help, but I was hoping in 2023 things were a little bit more standardized.
Yeah. No, we'll be doing I'm going to be doing different types of training. Like my first night, I helped hook up a water line to a hydrant and then attach it to the engine so that it can go ahead and pump water and stuff. So kind of learning hands-on. And then we also do training sessions of different sorts. On top of that, from June through the end of July, I'm going to have to be taking EMR classes, emergency medical response, which is basically like first responder type of things, going like, this is how you do a splint, this is how you get somebody CPR, this is how you use an AED defibrillator machine and stuff like that.
Alex is in trouble.
So no, she said she's going back to bed. Okay. Love you. I'm like, okay.
Oh, there you go.
That was from my wife.
Yeah.
Well,
wait till you get my text.
So, having that type of basic medical skills that, I was talking to one of the guys and saying like, some of the guys have EMT training, but we pretty much like, if we're first on the scene, we just do what we can up until the point that paramedics arrive and then can be able to do more beyond that, because our job first and foremost is, certain types of things. So yeah, it's just learning how everything operates and stuff like that. And then I have another thing tomorrow that I'm going to be attending with everybody else there. That's going to be doing some training, so it's a lot of consistent stuff. So yeah, but it's fun. It's going to be good. I got to sit on. There was a meeting afterwards where they were talking about like, what do we do with this money, because we need to get an extraction machine or an extractor, and I found out that an extractor is just basically a very advanced washing machine that takes out carcinogens of your firefighting clothing, because you don't want that stuff on there. So it was fun. It was good, and it's a nice mix of older guys and then younger guys, and I'm kind of like the middle-aged guy.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm also the rookie.
So is it funded by taxes?
Local taxes, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So the township, they basically get like a budget every year, and then that's what they go off and stuff.
Alex continues to contribute to his community and raise his children. I continue to get wasted on cheap whiskey and off to hentai. It's kind
so you help contribute to the GDP of Scotland.
We're Scotland. Oh, I was like, hentai's not from Scotland. Speaking of Star Wars, Alex, we're talking.
God, do we have to?
No, we're done. We're done talking about Star Wars, but we were talking about how there's like the audience is kind of strange now and shifted a bit. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the reason for that, there was an article that came up on Variety, which is about how Gen Z really doesn't care about movies as much as you would expect. Gen Z ranks watching TV and movies as 5th among top 5 entertainment activities. So it's dead last to the Zoomers. And I don't want to read. I didn't actually read this article. I just read the headline. What do you think number 1 and 2 are?
Let me see here. What do we got there?
Well, no.
Top 5 entertainment activities. I
was like, wait, are you cheating?
TikTok videos?
I would guess TikTok and video games.
TikTok and video games, or like, yeah, TikTok. I would say TikTok, maybe video games, or watching like people play, like Twitch, I guess. Well, watching other people play video games. Twitch is basically what you and I used to do in Toys R Us.
Oh, yeah. Except standing behind the person.
Standing behind the kid and being like, hey, you got to do this. You got to do that.
I didn't talk to people. I was just stood silently waiting my turn. You were the one, hey, you've got to get that mushroom power up.
No, I kind of walked by the video game thing, and then I just kept walking down to like where the GI Joes were.
Just lying. Kids these days, they're just not programmed to watch TV like their elders. Generation Z displays. Shouldn't have read that sentence. That's terrible. God. Generation Z displays strikingly different entertainment preferences than older age groups, according to Deloitte's 2021 Digital Media Trend Survey. Among Gen Z consumers in the U.S., those currently aged 14 to 24, video games are their number one entertainment activity. TV and movies are fifth place.
Including females? Because I don't think Zoomer females play Candy Crush as much as like the millennial females do.
No, they play like real games. They're playing like
Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other one, but yes. What's the knockoff Animal Crossing?
Minecraft?
No, the one that was Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley. I thought that was a Harvest Moon knockoff.
Oh, what'd you say? Animal Crossing? What's Animal Crossing?
It's the one where you have like a little like you move into this little. Well, now I had the original one on my DS, and you moved into this little town, with like that's inhabited by these anthropomorphic animals. Oh. But the new one is where you create like an island or something, and it's it's very cutesy.
No, this looks like Stardew Valley.
There's some elements of it, but it's not solely agricultural.
And your Harvest Moon was the one that you're saying?
Yeah, Harvest Moon, because you got the waifu.
No.
Harvest Moon 64 was the one I used to play a lot. And then I got the when Stardew Valley came out, and you get to like waifu a waifu, and I'm like, hell yeah, this is up my alley.
Stardew Valley, spiritual successor to Harvest Moon. Oh, you're right. I completely thought Animal Crossing.
It was the other way around.
I thought even looking at the game, it looks more like
this is basically just screenshots, but there's other stuff you do in Animal Crossing, and they might have introduced more agricultural parts to it, but the one I remembered on the DS didn't really have that much of an emphasis on raising crops and stuff like that. It's more like scavenging almost. Yeah, but Harvest Moon is like you inherit a farm from your grandfather or something like that, and
that's definitely what
really
happens
fun.
in Stardew Valley. So
it's basically mostly because I don't think the company that does Harvest Moon wants to do any of that stuff anymore.
See, the art style looks so different.
Pachinko parlors.
The art style looks so different from Stardew Valley that I assumed that it was the other way around. So anyway, I stand humbly corrected. So Gen Z says that video games is number one, followed by listening to music. Oh, interesting. Music is number two. Then the internet is number three. Social media is number four. What?
I'm surprised.
What are you laughing at? Why are you giggling?
Music. It kind of sounds like they get their like 45s and they sit in their little rooms.
Yeah, put their headphones on and then just like look at the dust jacket. Does anybody do that? Who does that?
Shooby-dooby-doo. Well, apparently it makes it sound like these guys are the ones, even though all they have is MP3s.
I listen to music when I'm on my computer.
Yeah, but you're doing something while it makes it sound like
I'm saying. That's what I'm
like they just sit on the couch like this.
That's what I'm saying is that
1,000-yard stare.
I listen to music when I'm in my car, when I'm driving, I guess. The only time I just listen to like albums is when I guess if I'm, well, I won't even say when I'm reading. No, if I put on an album, it'll just be because like an actual LP. It'll just be because I'm doing something else, like I'm making dinner.
It's like background music.
Who listens to music? Like
that's
crazy
because this is kind of like what it sounds like to me. Like they say, like, oh, they listen to music. It's like, well, maybe they're listening to music while they're playing games, while they're doing something else. But if it's just like, because the other things they list, it's more like they have to be more, I guess, engaged with it. Maybe they're listening to music while they're on the internet.
No, but it's separate. They put,
that's weird.
26% of the respondents said that playing video games was their top entertainment. Then the next rung down, 14% said that listening to music was their favorite. 12% said browsing the internet is their favorite. And 11% said social media.
Are they just on Reddit?
I don't think Zoomers use Reddit. In my experience, especially at this point, Reddit trends much older. Reddit reminds me of like 45-year-olds who are trying to be cool to their kids. That's kind of the vibe I get from Redditors whenever I see people talking. I may not be in the coolest subreddits, the hot young subreddits, but
don't even know.
But
they
like
exist.
on our movies, these are like 50-year-old people talking. And if they're not
talking
50
about
years
Tom
old,
Clancy movies,
no, they're just the way they talk about the new movies. They seem like old people, like 50, 40 years plus.
Social media, interesting. I don't know what social media.
Well, I can see if it's people.
TikTok or something there.
Alex,
Instagram.
speaking of old people,
I know.
no, it's people using Instagram, TikTok. What else is popular? Twitter,
Snapchat.
I don't hear people talk about Snapchat anymore. The youngins. I'll check with the 20-year-olds at work tomorrow.
Erica and I and our group of friends down here, we still have a little Snapchat channel that like 6 of us partake in, but yeah, we're all like in their late 30s at this point.
I rest my case.
Yeah.
I feel like Snapchat was popular 10 years ago, and now it's sort of... I think when Instagram introduced the stories function, it replaced Snapchat with younger people, but I may be wrong because
Who owns Snapchat?
I think it's its own thing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Facebook owns Instagram, and but Tencent owns... Who owns TikTok? One of those Chinese conglomerates.
I wouldn't put it past... Yeah, I would say Tencent, because there's probably other companies in China that do that, but for some reason Tencent's the one that always seems to come in.
Snapchat is independent. It's owned by Snap Inc.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right.
And who owns TikTok? ByteDance. Never heard of them, but
all right.
Based in Beijing, but registered in the Cayman Islands. Nice. Very nice. So I think that the social media thing sounds too low, way too low. You know, I think that I don't know. I think that the people who said listening to music are also looking at social media, like you said.
I feel like they're kind of multitasking. Like if they're browsing the internet, they happen to be on a social media site while they're online also, or something like that.
These are people who are they didn't want to say that they were just listening, that they were like just using social media, so they're like, oh no, I listen to music. Listening to music is the main thing. The social media is
music
just the
critic.
background.
Yeah. Well, I think also in this case, because they're talking about how they don't watch television, like terrestrial over-the-air television, which at this point includes both cable and satellite. You know, people have been doing the whole cutting the cord type of thing over the years and just getting, you know, streaming things or whatever they want to do. You know, more of a la carte system as opposed to how, you know, if you got cable, you had to get the basic package, and if you wanted these other channels, you had to get this package to add on and this. And, you know, there's an argument now that says, you know, if you got all these streaming things, you know, it's starting to add up, you know, close to the same amount that, you know, your old cable bill used to be. So there's really no difference. And it's like, that's true, but, you know, getting these types of programs that you want to watch, they're not necessarily going to be on TV, and a lot of the stuff that's on TV is also not simulcast, but simul uploaded on the other type of thing, like Hulu has stuff, Paramount Plus has stuff, HBO Plus. I mean, you know, it's just whatever people's habits are. It's like, you know, if I want to watch a show, I don't have to sit down on Tuesday night at 8:30 specifically to catch it. I can just put it on whenever I want, and you know.
I think that is a sad thing, though. I think that it changed the dynamics of communally watching a television program. The way like you see the pictures of the people in Times Square watching the last episode of Seinfeld on the big on the jumbo display. That kind of stuff won't ever happen again.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, Jen. There's a couple of other interesting things in here. When we look at so let's say, what are we, millennials? So our top pick is movies and TV, followed by video games. That makes sense. Then back to music. There's this contingency of people who just listen to music, Alex. I guess we're just not music people. Browse the internet is number 11, and then engage on social media play.
I think that very well surmises our generation, where we were the ones that had that, 7 day a week, this is the shows on these days at these times, and you kind of worked your daily schedule around for the evening, so you could catch these like TGI Fridays on Channel 7, where they would always have, prior to school year starting, they'd have, the cast of Family Matters is going to preview all the shows that are coming out, including your Saturday morning cartoons. And you don't really have anything like that anymore. And we grew up with some great movies and some great TV shows and stuff, and we also had video games. And yeah, music and social media we didn't have that in any way, shape, or form when, prior to our late teens. Even in our like early 20s, it was still in its infancy. So I think this very well reflects.
I mean, we didn't have social media until MySpace and Facebook, so that would have been college.
Yeah, so, and there were like a few things, like because you did like IRL, which
IRC,
I don't know.
IRC.
I'm sorry, yeah, IRC.
I guess that counts as social media.
Kind of some, but not like. It was very, very.
It's just chat rooms. There were chat rooms.
Right.
I like how Alex and I do a talk show, but he's clearly dying trying to talk through this show.
Well, as a millennial boomer, I mean.
So yeah, I don't even know what to make of this, really. Gen Z is just kind of both relatable and baffling in a lot of ways. It's when I talk to the young person at work, was impressed that I understood and could trade SpongeBob memes. And it's more the fact that SpongeBob is that old. And that's where that comes in, where it's like, people are like, I grew up with this. I'm like, well, I was in high school when that was on TV. It's like I was very aware of SpongeBob.
Also, I think that when they mention about like television shows, nobody really sits down in the living room and watches TV really anymore. It's more like they can just watch it. There's no you don't need a television to watch a television show anymore. You could just do it in your laptop, your smartphone, your computer monitor. You don't need a designated television to do that. So I guess the way that they consume it also might be, subject to scrutiny and stuff.
Alex,
movie theaters, that's where they still show like the big movies.
Alex, they still call Netflix TV shows. Netflix is still a TV show, even if you watch it on your phone. Look at Grumpy Pants over here.
Grumpy Pants is dead over here.
Speaking of a awful dystopian future, Alex.
I love those. Those are the best.
We sat down and revisited a classic anime duo of films. Ghost in the Shell and the sequel, Innocence. Although, do you think Ghost in the Shell qualifies as a dystopian future?
I don't think it's dystopian because there is some semblances of a legitimate operating government within that society of some sort. It's not like lawless. Like if you're thinking like there's a certain type of dystopian. Like Mad Max is definitely dystopian. What else?
I think Blade Runner qualifies as dystopian.
Blade Runner could kind of become like dystopian, although we don't. I mean, he does work for the police. So does Mad Max.
No. But I mean, think of like the structure of the government in Blade Runner and the state of the world. You know, like in
Judge Dredd would be one.
Sure.
Where everybody lives in like mega cities. Yeah, where it's
Dude, Blade Runner.
I wouldn't say Ghost in the Shell is dystopian.
I think that for the average person living in what's is it Newport City? I know the manga is in Newport City. Do they ever talk about what city they're in Ghost in the Shell?
I've never heard it come up or ever be mentioned. I just always pretend it's just Tokyo. I mean, it probably. No. Actually, it is Newport City.
Yeah, Newport is used widely in Masamune Shirow. It's the same place that Tank Police takes place in, Newport City of Kobe, Japan.
Oh, Newport City of Kobe, Japan. Okay, because I was thinking Port City. I'm thinking, okay, maybe like Yokohama or something.
Newport. At least in Tank Police, Newport is part of Kobe.
Did Shiro write Tank Police also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dominion Tank Police was one of his very early work.
I haven't seen that for a long time.
Maybe we should check that out.
Hey, some classics.
I think I sent you the DVD last time, so it's probably.
I think I do. Those cat girls.
Yeah, I think that for the average person in Newport City during the era of Ghost in the Shell, their life is probably pretty fine. They just go to work unless you get brain hacked. Your day's probably going to be normal, as it is now. Like you've got just garbage men going around picking up trash still. You know,
right? Yeah, they still have some semblance of like utilities and regular things that we do. Mm-hmm. Like it's basically I think the litmus test is how much of the stuff that we enjoy right now is still being done in these dystopian societies, and you can kind of.
You still have people going out, going to food markets, and going clothes shopping. They have clothing stores still.
I would say like Akira is not a dystopian future either.
Really?
In that sense, yeah, because there's still like people going out. I mean, there's certainly civil unrest and stuff like that, but it's not like it's a society that's kind of falling apart in some aspects. I mean, they do have the motorcycle gangs, and
it's. Although, yeah, you're right, though. You've got people just like at the beginning of that film, they're just sitting in a normal restaurant.
Yeah. And then a motorcycle comes by and smashes him in the back of the head.
Yeah. So, okay, so anyway, so yeah, just...
Record scratch, yep, that's me.
Debatably debatably dystopian future Ghost in the Shell. But specifically, we're talking about Ghost in the Shell, the movie, written and directed by Mamoru Oshii in 95, I believe.
95, yeah.
What is Ghost in the Shell about, Alex?
So basically, Ghost in the Shell is a film which follows Major Motoko Kusanagi, who was a member of the Section 9 of Japan's public security force. So kind of like a special division unit in which they are on the case of trying to find an individual who is being extracted from one country to another, and what the actual purposes of that is.
Close enough.
Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah, it is a.
I just saw the movie recently, but I can't remember much.
It's a dense political thriller, basically.
Yeah,
with a thick coat of cyberpunk. Techno-punk stuff going on top of it.
It's kind of like a Tom Clancy movie that takes place in the Blade Runner universe, I suppose. Like, it's the best way to do it.
This era of Mamoru Oshii stuff with Pat Labor 1 and 2 and Ghost in the Shell and even Innocence, like these really dense political philosophy, really good stuff in this era. Like this 90s Oshii is just one of the top 3 directors that were working.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also is reflective of the political and economic issues that were facing Japan at that time period too.
後藤さん、警察官として自衛官として俺たちが守ろうとしているものってのは何なんだろうな。前の戦争から半世紀、俺もあんたも生まれてこの方、戦争なんてものは経験せずに生きてきた。
The boom of the 80s
came crashing down,
yeah.
It became very dystopian, I guess you would say, for that time period in Japan. But during that time period, we always herald the 90s as having some fantastic, anime produced at that time period.
Well, so much of it was still hand drawn. I mean, like, you look at the artwork of Ghost in the Shell, and it's still stunning, even though a lot of it was finished in Avid, which is one of the first editing software suites. The production report's really interesting to watch because it's they go through, they're like, this is the usage of the Avid system, and it's very like technical, but Japanese technical. If you watch it, you'll see what I mean. But yeah, the animation quality and the character design and the way that they update. Because did you ever read the manga by Shiro?
No.
It's very different in terms of tone. It's more similar, I think, to Standalone Complex.
Okay.
Because you get the whole team. There's all of the other, like Borma and Paz and all of these other characters that you only see. I mean, you see Ishikawa briefly in this film, but mostly it's Bato, Togasa, and Major Kusanagi. But this one is very much Oshi's interpretation of Ghost in the Shell, which in some ways is much superior to the manga, in my opinion.
Right. It condenses a lot of that additional stuff down and just has the main characters on there, but instead of that wider supporting cast.
Yeah.
Did he have any was he in any way involved with the Standalone Complex series?
Nope.
No.
It's all
totally separate.
Yep, totally separate. It's all production IG, but it's completely different staff.
Okay. So he just did the films.
He's just the movie guy.
Okay.
Also, one of the other great, amazing things about Ghost in the Shell is the music. It is like that opening making of a cyborg sequence with that music was so weird and new and original. Like it's one of those iconic sequences in anime, in my opinion. Even when Ghost in the Shell tries to mimic itself, they never do it quite as well as that original movie did, including those titles, like the just the text, the wall of text that slowly or quickly resolves into the production crew. It's so cool and so and like. I thought you were going to say something.
No, I was just going on that because, like, reading the wiki page about the audios that the making of the cyborg segment used, that they used classical Japanese done in the style of Bulgarian folk music.
Because you say,
so it's this interesting combination of the two that creates something that's exceptionally unique, and it's so. It's like it cannot be separated away from Ghost in the Shell, because it's like, when you think about it and you see parts of Ghost in the Shell, you think of the music, and then when you hear that music, you think of Ghost in the Shell.
Kenshi Kawai, the composer for this, is another one of those people that is just an incredible artist who the staff of this one movie is filled with some of the biggest names in the industry. Shoji Kawamori, one of the creators of Macross and Escaflowne. His only job for this was mechanical design, I think, was his
designing the tank. I think that like spider tank or whatever, it's like crab tank at the very end.
Well, he should have done like the cars too, I would imagine. He did all of everything but the guns, because the guns have their own designer. So there's a mechanical designer and gun designer that worked on Yeah, he's credited for mechanical design. So, but really, really talented group of people who were together to make it's sort of when you look at a lot of the early Gynex stuff where you just have a group of really talented guys working together and making really important, really time-tested animation. And now you don't really have that anymore. All of the they're all old or dying. Or dead. Yeah. Like Satoshi Kon, dead. Whatever the other one, Isao Takahata, dead. Sorry, but so yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add about Gits?
No. I mean, it's kind of like it's a movie where you need to really watch it more so because it's kind of hard to, I've watched it many times and more recently, and it's still kind of hard to like explain like the premise where it's like it has to do it's this political thriller. It has to do with a lot of ethereal transhumanism type of subject matter too, and what is a human, how much human is still existent in a cybernetic body, and then how much cybernetics is still existent in a human body, and the way that they play off each other. It's like where's this red line between two, and can they be done as a medium and such like that, and the way it all fits together, and the character of the puppet master and what they're trying to achieve within this whole type of transhuman. There's it's a lot of transhumanism stuff that's kind of coming up more and more these days, where they're trying to put like chips in heads, chips in your wrist, and stuff like that, and trying to find a medium between the two.
Alex, would you get a cyborg body to put your brain in? No. It's everything I want. It's all I want out of life is a cyborg body.
Maybe I would. The furthest I would go is probably what Togusa has, where he just has like
his brain implant.
Yeah, just like a little brain, so he can do like direct discussion and stuff.
He can text message the major. I like how Alex won't give his ID over to have his age verified, but he'll have a chip put in his brain so that he can text message people.
Well, this is two different questions.
I'm just kidding. Alex, I
still want to watch my Pornhub.
Really cool, interesting ideas in this film. Alex, how many pots of gold for Ghost in the Shell?
4.
I completely agree. Ghost in the Shell is one of my probably top 10 anime of all time. I remember the first time I saw it being like, what? I need to rewind and watch this again, because I rented it from Blockbuster, and it wasn't one of my early ones, but it was pretty 95, so I was probably 12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was, that's a pretty big impression on a 12-year-old to watch Ghost in the Shell. It was sort of like...
Especially when you go to Blockbuster and you're like 12 years old and you see the box cover, which I think they've probably changed it, but the original manga entertainment one, and you're just like,
hubba hubba.
How do I get this past mom?
No, my mom knew all about this. I didn't even notice that. That's how like innocent I was.
I noticed the booba.
See, I didn't notice the booba at all. I think my mom pointed out the booba. My mom was like, "What is this? What are you renting?"
Mm-hmm.
See, it's not that bad. I had been watching X-Men. It's not that different from X-Men.
Well, see, the theatrical poster that's up there on the right side of it.
This one?
That one's got Booba and Butta.
Booba and Poopa. Come on.
Booba.
Butta.
Is there any Vagana?
No.
Oh, and it's got feet. Oh, well.
Oh, okay, that's enough. This is I have this poster. I think I got it from Suncoast Video. I want to track that. I bet you this thing is really expensive now. Everything cool is expensive now. Oh man, I have this too. This was back when it came out on video for rent. It cost like $250 to buy, and then it would come to home video. But Blockbuster would sell you the real thing, like would sell you it during rental only mode for the full rental price. So yeah, one of the classics, one of the all-time classics.
Yeah. I think other than Akira, it's the only anime I would ever give like a perfect score to. like on my anime list. I think those two are the only ones that are 10s. There's a few 9s, but those are the only two that are 10s.
I don't know what I don't know if I gave it a 10 on, because 10s have like there's too many. Anyway, that's a whole other topic.
There's a lot of different
Speaking of transhumanism, Alex, and what is and dolls versus humans versus robots. Innocence, the sequel from 2004, so almost 10 years later, deals a lot more with that than the original does. It's kind of the central premise. It's sort of about dolls, children, and animals are sort of its little trinity of entities and what separates them, which is seen in Innocence. The cover, which or the poster for the film, I always thought was really not clever is wrong, but intriguing. It's a really to go with the dog on the cover. I think is really a really cool little motif that they play with. Innocence takes place an undetermined amount of time after Ghost in the Shell, several years after Major Kusanagi has gone missing, and picks back up with Bato, our protagonist, who has been assigned a case with his old teammate but now partner Togusa. Bato being similar to Kusanagi in that he is mostly cyborg, and Togusa continues to be the foil of Section 9 in that he is almost all human aside from some brain augmentation.
Yeah. And he carries a revolver.
He carries a classic. He's the boomer. He's the boomer of the. I'm sure he listens to vinyl. Goes to watch movies on film.
Oh, he listens to CDs.
He listens to of course. This is like 2029 or something, I think. So they get put on a case about some rampaging cyborg like assistants, or they're called
like sex dolls.
Well,
fembots.
That's a spoiler, mini spoiler. Although this is spoilers. At first, they're considered to be like helper robots, but then they discover that one model that's killing people is a sexoroid, which has extra organs that are unnecessary for maid activities, as the investigator says.
They're removable for easy cleaning.
Let's hope so. So yeah, it tells a similar tone and style of the original film. Same beautiful 2D animation. A lot more 3D in this film, which I know, Alex, you had a reaction to.
Not really that much.
Oh,
I think it was.
Because you texted
my
me and
issue
were like, how come Japanese people can't do good CG animation?
That was that was because I watched 2.0.
Oh,
that's what my reaction is, which was weird because
Gotcha.
2.0 came out, I think, after this, and I was just like, was it completely different? Like a different company you had to do the effects for that? Like, what was the reason? Because it's so just like obviously bad. You're like, oh man, this PlayStation 2 game's gonna be awesome.
I think different budget was the big difference.
Definitely different budget, that's for sure.
Really, one of the most embarrassing things, since we were talking about making of a cyborg, the way that they changed making of a cyborg in Ghost in the Shell 2.0, which I'm not going to bother trying to play it because it probably will get us. That will definitely get us dinged. But the way they like bastardized this is just so heartbreaking, especially since, like I was just talking about how cool the titles are. This is so lame. Those original titles and like this shitty yellow filter.
Yeah, it's just so washed out looking.
It's just gross. It looks like pee. Yeah, man.
dirty, rusty pea water.
It's so much better in the other.
Did they ever explain what the justification for this was?
Yeah, because the aesthetic of the second film of Innocence is like this.
Oh.
It's
So they want to somehow retroactively
yeah.
make the first film more in line. That's a stupid.
It's a stupid reason because I think that having the films have different looks makes them more memorable and defined. Like Pet Labor 1 takes place during the summer and is very warm colors, very deep saturated. Pet Labor 2 takes place during the winter and is super desaturated to the point that some of it looks black and white. You know, it's like really, but that's nice. It's visual styles for the films.
And
it's just,
and in these two, it shows like, you know, there's like time has elapsed since the events of the first movie, like 3 or 4 years or whatever it is and such. So it can justify the way that things look.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, because the problem is like after that making of a cyborg scene, everything else in the movie then kind of just looks like it did in the previous film.
Occasionally you get some backgrounds that are clearly 3D, but I think it's pretty tasteful.
Yeah, because I really didn't notice a lot of that during that final scene with the tank itself.
I'm so relieved. Wait, do you mean in the original film?
Or the remake?
Oh, yeah. There's
was.
other stuff. Yeah, I thought you were okay.
Oh.
Yeah. I meant in Innocence, the CG is pretty tasteful in that.
Yes.
In that
No. Yeah. There. The 2.0 is just like
like I said before, we don't talk about 2.0.
It's like George Lucas.
It is. It was very much a George Lucas. So it's like she saw George Lucas messing with his films and thought, I want to do that. And
yeah. So Oshii did sign off on the 2.0 thing?
He was directly involved.
Oh no.
But the other thing is, because I was thinking when you texted me, I thought, man, Alex is really hard on films, because if he's already like complaining about the CG in Innocence, then man, like I can't believe he doesn't like how this looks, because there were moments where the reason I have this cathedral up is that there were moments when seeing this in the theater, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. You know, so it's like stuff that like the art design, and even though it's CG, it's still really arresting animation, in my opinion, that they were doing. Really cool ideas.
No, I had no issue with this. The texts were brought on by me watching 2.0 because I was just like, what is the deal with 2.0? What's the let me see what it's all about. And I saw it, I'm just like, I shouldn't have, but thankfully still seeing it allows me to enjoy the first one. And it was a mistake. Everybody should have admitted to it, and I will continue from here.
Yeah. Again, just like the original, fantastic music by Kenji Kawai. There's some really great I like how both films have this little montage in the middle of the movie that's just kind of ambience, and in this one, it's when they go into that new city and they're at the parade and stuff, and it's all just like very different music, but it's very, very cool, very atmospheric, and I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Yeah, I actually got goosebumps talking. You probably can't see it, but it's like, ooh.
It gives you a nice little look of like the setting and what the world looks like of it.
Beautiful music, beautiful animation, just like everything. A bunch of artists at the top of their game coming together and doing something really special. Anything for Innocence that you wanted to add? Anything? The story's a little more convoluted in certain ways, just because there's more moving parts to it, and there's a lot of like names that get mentioned, like Locus Solus or something.
Locus Solus,
yeah. Where I was like, wait, is that a company? It's a company, okay, but it's also a ship. Who are these people? What's happening? Where is this? And then he just goes to visit that one guy in the mansion. And I'm like, how do you know him? Everybody, Bato knows everybody apparently. He's just like, I know.
He's a man about town.
So, all right. So Innocence, Pots of Gold. What do you got?
I think I gave it 3 pots of gold. I think that might have been it. It's it's a decent sequel to the original film, but this original film is such a solid 4 pots of gold, and this one it's on its own. It's a it's a fine movie. I don't know. I kind of just played safe with the 3 pots of gold. It's a lot better than other things, but
I would say I would be remiss if I didn't give it 3.5 pots of gold, because it does something really effectively, which is making a sequel without the main character of the original, and yet somehow still making you care about the story, care about the characters, and then spoilers, when Kusanagi finally does show up in this movie, it shows more respect to Ghost in the Shell fans than Star Wars did to Star Wars fans with the treatment of its characters.
Right.
If Disney made this movie, Kusanagi would never have shown up. Togusa would have gotten killed, and Bato would have turned into a woman. He would have woken up in a female body at the end of the movie
as a gynoid,
and he would be like, and then somebody would have said, "What's your name?" And he'd look around and be like, "Kusanagi," and then be like, "Ghost in the Shell will be back. Ghost in the Shell will return. The Ghost in the Shell."
They're gonna build a Ghost in the Shell section there in the Magic Kingdom.
You can picture it, can't you? I can picture
a Ghost in the Shell ride at Tomorrowland.
The Therm Optic ride will be very awkward. All these 30-year-old men in their skin-tight, transparent outfits.
Everybody gets augmented reality glasses.
My Bato glasses. We're done, right? We're done?
Yeah, we're done.
I think we're done. Then, Alex, would you please do me a favor and wrap up this week's show?
Hi. Thank you very much for listening, watching, and sending us our hate mail at contact@culturedoom.com.
Quit trying to make it happen. It's not going to happen.
I know. I feel like that what's-her-face from Mean Girls. On behalf of my esteemed colleague, there he is, Brendan, this is Alex saying, "Da papachinya." Until next time.